Welcome, everyone. Today we have extremely exciting topic, Beauty Growth Playbook. So winning with AI, personalization, and marketplace intelligence. For many of you, you probably already know me from a prior webinar. So I'm Irina Mazer. I'm Chief Product and Marketing Officer at Revive. And I'm extremely excited to share this session with amazing guest, Hillary from Jungle Scout. And today we'll show how AI-powered personalization and marketplace intelligence can really work together hand in hand to hopefully drive measurable growth for beauty brands and retailers. So with that, just a quick, let's take a quick look at what we'll cover. At first, we'll dive into the marketplace intelligence with some real life examples, and Hillary will take us through the fascinating Amazon data that kind of shows where the consumer demand and trends lie. And then we'll talk a bit about the beauty discovery or the broader sense, what's happening with AI and how it transforms what it means to personalize consumer engagement and across all the different channels. And let's see how it goes. We might be able to open it up for Q&A, but later on we'll probably open up chat so that you could type your questions. If we don't get to answer those during the webinar, we promise we will follow up with additional details after, be it in email or with some additional materials afterwards. So perhaps let's start, right, with a bit of a reality check. We know that many beauty brands are engaging and investing in AI personalization. I've been talking about personalization probably for years, if not decades now, and every time we talk, the definition of what it means, to create engaging, fun, and more importantly, the experience that actually drives commercial outcome changes, right? And why? We get more technology, consumers change, and the true growth really only happens when consumer intent meets real market opportunity. We will dive in, and we actually touched upon that in prior webinars of what is happening with consumer intent and how that gets communicated. We'll bring that back in this conversation. But first and foremost, I want to start with really connecting the journey and basing whatever it is that you might be building to data-backed strategy that will allow you to supplement what you're doing and change or perhaps and adopt what you're doing on different channels. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Hillary, and she will take you to amazing world of Amazon.
Amazing. Thank you, Arita. I really appreciate your introduction. Let me just share my screen here and pull up my slides. So it looks like I'm all ready to go. And I wanted to really kick this off by saying that when I was first introduced to Arena, I could not help but jump on this topic because, like most of us on this call, I'm sure, we have a bit of a special interest in the beauty category. So, for those who are not familiar with Jungle Scout, we really cover Amazon as a whole, right? We have data on Amazon from every category. But I will say, of all the categories, I have a bit of like a pet interest in the beauty one. So, I definitely was very eager to speak on this topic. I was very eager to, I made a joke about on LinkedIn about picking out my lipstick color for today's call. So, really happy to be here and really especially excited to share both the Amazon data side, but as well some really compelling use cases of how different brands are leveraging different growth levers on Amazon to increase their market share, and the different ways that brands like those who are on this call can take those same tactics to grow revenue on Amazon and really make Amazon a true brand marketing channel as part of your omni-channel strategy. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about what shoppers really want, what they buy, and then what the data tells beauty brands to do next. So, for those who aren't familiar with Jungle Scout, when you think Amazon data, you really think Jungle Scout. We were the first to market in the Amazon intelligence space. Jungle Scout was founded in 2015. So, this year is our 10-year anniversary, which is so exciting. Was founded by an Amazon seller who said to himself, what if there was an easier way to just figure out profitable products that I could sell on Amazon? He started with a Chrome extension that linked into Amazon, showed sales estimates, Amazon fees, what your profits would be. And then we've really grown from there, explosive growth in a lot of ways, to having over 1 million global sellers around the world, and a number of large brands who trust and use Jungle Scout's data every day to make the decisions that power their business and power their omni-channel growth. Jungle Scout covers 11 times more GMV than any other provider. Typically, other providers sharing Amazon data share about 1%. We share 10 to 11% of Amazon GMV. And then we track 600 million plus products at any given time across Amazon. And like I said, we have that 10 years worth of data. So our data modeling and our sales estimates, we've been working on those and honing them for years to ensure that they are as accurate as possible. And anyone who is using our data is able to de-risk the decisions they're making and make the most informed decision for them in terms of pricing, innovation strategies, and growth strategies. So the three main levers that we really talk about when we talk about Amazon growth come down to pricing. So how can you price to sell more, or how can you price to sell for more, so you can equal out your revenue and grow based on how you're pricing each unit, as well as distribution. So how do you optimize and enforce your 1P versus 3P footprint? One of the biggest challenges we see for beauty brands is really the rise of unauthorized resellers who are selling on your listing and taking your buy box. So how do you come up with the right mix of authorized sellers, the tactics that you need to, and the spotting that you need to eliminate some of those unauthorized sellers who might be hurting your reputation or taking away your revenue, as well as innovation. So how are you going to increase basket size? How are you going to create more affinity with your brand and create more shopper loyalty over time by coming up with data-backed innovation that you know that shoppers will love? And I really like to, and this is probably the marketer in me, but I love to start with keyword data. So Jungle Scout tracks the top 85% of all keywords that shoppers look for on Amazon. And in preparation for today's call, we've compiled a list of the top 500 keywords in beauty and personal care, as well as which ones are like declining in the US marketplace. So I pulled all of the data year to date in beauty and personal care, and this is a massive category. So anyone in this call or any of the brands that are familiar with this, if you're selling in beauty and personal care, this is a really wide, diverse category. It encompasses hair tools, for example, so like hot tools. It encompasses dental care, so like your everything from toothpaste to electric toothbrushes, right? It's a very wide category. It's not just what you would think of in terms of makeup or skincare. It's really wide and really diverse, which is why when you look here at the total or the list of the top 10 keywords, which is what I've pulled here, you can see sorted in terms of most searched. There's 500, so they get really granular as they get further down. But in this top 10, you can see products like body wash or hand soap, things that you don't typically think of in the beauty space, but are ultimately encompassed under like the broader personal care space on Amazon. And one of the things that I wanted to call attention to is if you look at number 9 here, there's an actual branded keyword in the top 10 on Amazon, which is pretty incredible to reach that level of traffic and that level of brand awareness on a channel as big and as diverse as Amazon. So Medicube, if you're not familiar, it's an emerging skincare brand. It's the only branded keyword, as I mentioned, in the top 10. And when you see that kind of massive growth, revenue growth is really the next big indicator. You get shopper demand equals revenue growth, right? So Medicube has experienced almost 600% year over year growth in this year, and they sell across a variety of skincare categories. Their leading subcategory is wrinkle and anti-aging devices, where they own about 28% of the market share over the last 12 months. But in 2023, they only owned 23% of the market. So going from 23% to 28% is a really substantial jump and really shows their dominance in this category as they continue to grow. They've also taken that brand equity that they've gotten in that space, and you can see here their revenue split across their primary subcategories. They're expanding into facial moisturizers, serums, acids and peels, which masks, toners, and astringents. Toners and astringents is actually one of their most popular products now, even over and above some of their wrinkle and anti-aging devices. They actually have 5 of the 100 spots in Amazon's beauty and personal care bestseller rank, which anyone can look at any time, by the way. If you go into Amazon and look through the bestseller ranks by category, having 5 of 100, they might actually be the top brand in the top 100 on Amazon. And the number one spot actually as of this morning was this product that you can see Alex Earl, for everyone who's familiar with her as an influencer. She's actually holding the product in her hand. So they're really leveraging an omni-channel approach as well as making Amazon a really strong brand marketing channel for their business. And they're making major investments across Instagram, TikTok, all of these different partnerships to drive that growth up. And when we talk about revenue growth, keywords, shopper intent, and demand, this is really one of the signals for innovation. So this lip care study is one of the ones that I find it's such a cut and dried example of how shopper demand equals revenue growth equals product and innovation opportunities for beauty brands. Amazon really acts as a proxy for the market. And you're going to hear me say that a few more times during this part of the call. So I want to use lip stain as the example. Searches for lip stain were up in 26% in July compared to January, and searches for lip balm went down by 13%, right? So on Amazon, demand equals sales. Lip stain revenue actually increased 84% year over year. You can see that highlighted in one of these graphics that I've pulled out of Jungle Scout. Demand also equals opportunity for brands. Brands see the shopper demand going up. They see revenue increasing in the space. They use it to capitalize on and make an opportunity for themselves to grow and expand their catalog. So the number of ASINs, which are really the SKU numbers for products on Amazon, jumped 8% year over year. So consumers want the product, consumers buy that product, brands see the demand, they start making that product. That's really what the demand to innovation cycle looks like on Amazon. And this is really where data needs to be used to power that innovation, right? You don't want to be placing your bets or your investments on a product that doesn't necessarily have that kind of sustainable growing consumer demand, or where you can't adequately compete against other products. So this is the other side of innovation, which I know is going to be interesting to the beauty brands who've joined us on the call today, because this is about identifying white space, especially as it comes to things like formulations, different ingredients, and different shopper preferences. So there are really 2 key areas that you need to explore when it comes to this kind of innovation. And those are demand and density. So on the demand side, we're looking at keywords, we're looking at revenue increases, we're looking at the number of ASINs. Are they growing or are they declining? And we're looking at review growth. So reviews are like a really great additional indicator of if shoppers are buying that product and how engaged shoppers are with that product. If they like it enough to review it, or if they don't like it and they're reviewing it poorly, right? Like this is data that you really need to know, because it leaves either space to capitalize on dissatisfaction with other products or capitalize on people's love of other products and seeing what you can do to compete, maybe against price, maybe against a slightly different formulation that's also in demand. As well, you need to look at density. So what's the market share? Is it really fragmented or is it really concentrated? We just did a back to school case study on backpacks. And backpacks are super fragmented. You've got the top market share leader in backpacks. They only own 4% of the market. The example that I just showed about wrinkle and anti-aging devices, Medicube had 28% of the market. So that's a very concentrated market share versus a very fragmented one, right? And you want to make sure that there's going to be space for you to be able to enter the market and adequately compete. As well, what does the 3P and reseller landscape look like? Are you going to be constantly knocking out resellers who are trying to copy or dupe your product? Are you going to be at risk of falling behind in innovation as more agile sellers come into the market, et cetera? So I've pulled a little case study on peptides. For those who are more informed on the call, this is looking at both peptides and polypeptides, which are often grouped together when shoppers are looking for specific cosmetic products. So you can see the average weekly searches for this have increased substantially. This goes back to like a year's worth of data, so roughly like August of last year to August of this year. You can see really substantial growth. Like it's basically doubled coming into this summer. And the total revenue and sales for polypeptide and peptide products has also really increased 113% year over year, with really substantial increases in unit sales for these products. And one of the things that I've also taken a look at is how the demand for certain formulations or ingredients, like peptides, can really shake up the market as a whole. So in 2024, Maybelline was the #3 revenue share leader in the lip gloss subcategory. In 2025, this mix shifted, and City Beauty, who also happens to be the #1 revenue share leader for peptide and polypeptide specific gloss, took the #3 spot. So you can see that a brand that's really leaning into consumer demand for specific types of ingredients can unseat bigger market share leaders just by capitalizing on things that shoppers really want to buy, and they're leaning into and adapting to market demand. And they're building up a stronger Amazon presence to really shake up the market on Amazon. The other thing that I know a lot of beauty brands are faced with is really the threat side of their growth, right? So who is trying to come for the buy box, which is really the CTA button where shoppers can buy products on Amazon. Amazon can offer that buy box to the most eligible seller. Typically, sellers it's a very complex algorithm. They don't even expose it to the public. But a few of the elements are like shopper reputation. Are you selling on Prime? What is your price? Are you the most likely seller to satisfy that buyer? And it's not always the brand who's selling the product. A 3P seller or reseller can unseat the brand who is selling their own product, right? So there's really three sides to this like 3P threat story, which is how we've talked about it. It's really a disruption story. The biggest threats are resellers who are stealing the buy box. The biggest risks there are loss of revenue, reputation, minimum advertised price violations, which can really hurt your pricing power as a whole, because someone can come to your direct to consumer website and say, hey, I actually saw it on Amazon for $5 less. Why are you selling it for this? Can I have it for that price? Right? It really can disrupt how shoppers view the pricing power of your product. There's also the 3P disruptors who are winning on price and innovation with their own products, which we'll see a little bit of that example here on the drunk elephant case study that I pulled. And the biggest risks there are market share loss and revenue loss. And then you've also got your dupe sellers. So people who are either taking your exact product and masking it as their own, people who are taking a very similar product to you and selling it. This can also result in market share loss, revenue loss, and depreciation of pricing power, which is the case that we can see with drunk elephants. So they came out with this product forever ago. I actually thought it was more recent, but it really became much more popular in the last few years, are these bronzing drops, this like liquid bronzer product. So you can see here, this is drunk elephant here. Then you can see e.l.f., huge multi-billion-dollar skincare brand. They're taking a very similar product and selling it for $12. So they're really disrupting the market, capitalizing on the demand for this original product, which was kind of like the first and foremost product in the space, and taking away some of that market share. And then you've got this fourth example here, which it looks very similar to the first one, right? So this is someone who's basically just taking like either a fake version of this product. They're stealing the imagery, but just taking the the graphic off of it, which creates a lot of confusion, right? If you weren't a super savvy shopper and you didn't know that this wasn't really the drunk elephant product, you might buy this by mistake, thinking it was the drunk elephant item, and be very disappointed when you got something that, you know, was not from the brand that you thought it was, right? And you can see, again, with this last example, someone else is launching a very similar product. It comes up for bronzing drops when you look for that product, but it's at $6 a unit and actually is like pretty well reviewed, right? 906 reviews at a 4.3 score. Your head might be turned by someone who's pricing much more competitively than you. On the continuing a little bit more on the rise of dupe culture, I'm sure everyone is familiar with Lululemon dupes. If you're on TikTok or you're in any kind of yoga spaces, this is a search that you've probably seen, maybe even a search that you've done for yourself. So I looked, and Lululemon dupe on Amazon is searched about 15,000 times on average a week. But you take a brand like CRZ Yoga, they're a third party seller. They now capitalizing on their original product, which was a Lululemon dupe, kind of those like buttery leggings, kind of like the Lululemon Align leggings. They now get 196,000 weekly searches, and they've actually expanded to sell an entire yoga line. And you can see here in this market share leadership graph that I've pulled, they're actually the number one market share leader in this women's yoga legging space. So they've taken a product that already had demand and already had a lot of brand equity, duped it, and are now really growing at an unreal pace, but just capitalizing off the equity of another brand. You also have Nike. They're a really great example of a brand that left Amazon. They came back this year, which was great. We love to see that. But they were a brand that left the space because they were tired of other brands or other resellers selling on their listings, taking their buy box. They really felt like there was an erosion of brand control on Amazon. Amazon eventually won them back, of course, but what you can see here is these are these different brands here. So Stadium Goods, Trusted Footwear, Plain Gear. These are resellers who are reselling Nike's products in their absence. You can see they're actually selling at a pretty substantial rate. Like this Stadium Goods reseller was taking about 6% of the total revenue share for all Nike sales, despite the fact that they are not Nike themselves, right? So Jungle Scout, one of the things that we do, and one of the number one things that we see brands coming to us with is, how do I get more control over my brand? How can I protect my reputation? How can I knock out unauthorized resellers? How can I improve my market presence so that when people are looking for a product like Lululemon dupe, like I am the brand that is there, or looking for bronzy drops, to use the drunk elephant example. Another use case that I wanted to share is on pricing. So pricing is especially important in the beauty space because, of course, you've got certain price bands which put certain products into different categories in the shopper's mind, right? You've got products that are, I tend to think of like $25 as like the breaking point for like going into premium versus being like a more consumer-led product, right? If you're looking at like a lip gloss product, once you really cross that $25 price point, you're typically perceived as a more premium item. And pricing is really an indicator of both innovation and disruption, and these two things go hand in hand. So this example is actually in the health space. So this is collagen supplements, a huge subcategory on Amazon. This is an $800 million subcategory. It's long been dominated by Vital Proteins, a really common household name for this type of product. They're really one of like the originators in this space. And they own 17% of the market in 2025. But in 2023, they had 20% of the market. So they're actually losing market share year over year. And you can see this brand here that I've included that's now in the top 5 market share leaders for this product. They weren't even in the top 10 in 2023. They emerged in 2023 and they've been gaining market share despite reducing prices and pricing more competitively to Vital Proteins, who also raised their price during the same period. So pricing can really be a lever for growth. This is one of the it can be a lever for growth, but it can also hurt your brand if you're not using it in the right way. One of the things that I had seen doing a bit of a deeper click through on some of the drunk elephant data is as lower price competitors have entered the market, they've actually lost market share. So for these bronzing drop products, they're on average $36 a unit. But from 2023, when they really blew up with this product, they were the number two market share leader. And this year, I think they were number seven. And then you have products like Elf, you have products that, like some of the ones that I shared, that are priced much more competitively, are gaining market share very rapidly. So pricing can be a real make or break lever for you when it comes to how you grow on Amazon. And I want to sum up before I hand it back to Irina, because I know she's got some really fantastic data about how you can improve your DTC presence, how you can leverage different layers of personalization and encompass data with that to really grow more sustainably. I just want to sum up talking a little bit more about Amazon and what the Amazon opportunity means for your omni-channel strategy as a whole. So Amazon is really a major innovator in the beauty space. And they've been working hand in hand with 1P brand leaders to create these like Amazon exclusive shopper experiences. And I think we'll continue to see as the beauty industry grows and as Amazon grows, more premium beauty brands turning to Amazon and making Amazon a go-to channel. So Amazon's own beauty GM shared that a third of all luxury beauty buyers in the US are now turning to Amazon. So this opportunity really can't be ignored, especially if you do have a product that is at a higher or more premium price point. It's also one of the foremost brand marketing and discovery channels for beauty buyers. So a study came out from Analytic Partners ROI Genome, and they showed that Amazon ads actually have really high incrementality. So the dollars that you're spending on Amazon are not just impacting your sales on Amazon, they're impacting your off Amazon sales. They found that 45% of the overall purchases associated with Amazon ad spend actually happened off Amazon. So this can be a really strong discovery channel. And it really means that you need to be putting your best face forward on all of your other channels because Amazon traffic and what you're spending on Amazon can drive people there. And in February, Amazon knows this. They actually started experimenting with sending shoppers from Amazon directly to those brands' DTC sites. And you can see I actually pulled this little screenshot for Bare Minerals, typically thought of as a more premium brand. Amazon is actually showing because there's so much reseller and brand control issues on Amazon, they're actually working directly with vendors like this to show that this is sourced directly from the brand. And they're kind of showing this certificate of authenticity to help build shopper trust and to gain trust with these brands as well. So with that, as we talk a little bit more omni-channel, I will hand it back to you, Irina.
Well, thank you so much, Hillary. This is truly a fascinating topic. And I think all of us being the shoppers on Amazon, but also obviously now in business and making sure that we want to turn this channel into the best, right? Are always fascinated by what's happening here. And what I will touch on is, again, how can we leverage this and what else do we need to do? And as you mentioned, this is one of the channels. This is a channel that obviously is extremely significant and should be both significant for the discovery, but also it's an additional source of information because that's where you could see, who is competing for your market share, why, how perhaps some points that the brand made about itself elsewhere resonate or not resonate and what to watch out to. But this is not, it's still one of the channels and it should be a part of the strategy. And so I would say that when we think about personalization, when I talk to many customers of ours or partners of ours, right, sometimes there is still a bit of that sort that personalization is a feature that you put somewhere. But in reality, is personalization is really a frame of mind and it's your growth strategy. So when you're thinking about that, you need to think how you leverage that across all the channels. And of course, your direct to consumer channel is extremely important regardless of where the majority of buy is happening. Why? because that is the channels that you truly own. And that is where you have an opportunity to elevate your brand image, right? A lot of discovery happens on Amazon, but a lot of additional discovery, especially with the rise of AI, is happening elsewhere. It's happening in Chat GPT. It's happening on Google. It's happening in on all the different social channels. So a lot of times when consumer comes to the storefront, be it Amazon or elsewhere, they come with already an idea, with a thought of what it is they want, from who they want it, and how it needs to look and feel. So do make sure that you elevate your brand image, on create personalized, deep experiences on your own, on the channels that you control. It does enhance brand perception in this extremely crowded market. The second point is it does strengthen the consumer trust, right? You have a way of communicating, telling the story in the right way. As Hillary mentioned, there might be dupes, right? There might be some others that formulate after your product, but your ingredients might be different. Your exact formula is probably different. Your quality of your ingredients, or the overall experience and how you guide the consumers to which product is right for them, comes from you as a brand that truly knows the story. So use every opportunity to really educate your consumer on the channels that you own, and that does have the effect, as a multiplying effect across all the other channels. It drives the growth. And so we do see that when personalization is applied strategically, first on the primary channels that you own, where you control the voice, it has that ripple effect of higher engagement, stronger conversion, and overall better retention across the entire ecosystem, from your own direct to consumer to Amazon to other retailers. Granted, it also comes with risks. It creates a dupes, but I would imagine that it's much better to be the product that everybody wants to clone than the product that no one knows about. So do make smart decisions. And a lot of times, and I know with Hillary, as we were preparing for the webinar, we were asking like, hey, so where do shoppers actually buy, and when do we send the shoppers to direct to consumer or guide them to Amazon? I think it's not one answer. You actually need both. But I think you now have an opportunity to guide them to direct to consumer for additional experience. If nothing else, whether they choose to buy elsewhere because of the price point or convenience of delivery, in the end, you want them to buy your product, and you want them to know about your brand. And so that's where your direct to consumer channels shine, because you can put this kind of higher value discovery experience. You can tell your story. You can provide more education to the consumer. You can, and I will touch upon that, put technology of your choice to either guide them through, like, for example, skin analysis or virtual try on, and not be limited by the standard tools that everybody else is using and kind of be drowned. So, and you also have that opportunity to kind of make your product bundles and your product routines shine, rather than worrying that that will be complemented by a product from some other brand, where obviously you're kind of losing on that opportunity, but you also probably can't comment well enough of how your product would layer and work in conjunction with a product from another brand. So tons of opportunity to perhaps excite, inspire, educate, and convert consumer on your channels. And then, of course, Amazon, you can't deny it, right? You need to be there as well. It's one of the channels, but it allows you for this additional final discovery, for this additional comparison. So, and as you see, Amazon is now allowing to kind of drive consumer back and forth because they're also recognizing the value of the brand and trust that it builds. Um, but it, of course, as any other platform, also is, uh, I don't want to say limited in technology, but it's standardized technology available to all. So when you're using technology, you have much more choices to do something unique on your own direct-to-consumer channel. So, what else is happening and why those channels, why I'm always saying do not ignore it, no matter whether the majority of your revenue and actual sale happens on Amazon. Do not ignore your own channels. That's where you have your real power. That's where you get to choose your own technology stack. And I will bring this down why it's so important, especially in the beauty industry, and perhaps even more so in skincare, perhaps. And those of you who are representing skincare brands or have skincare product lines know very well how you want for example, if you have a tool or solution that does skin analysis, to communicate to consumers in your definitions, right? And not just kind of like abstract out. Perhaps your definition of wrinkles is slightly different. Perhaps your definition of moisture is slightly different, and you know what you're talking about, and you know which ingredients you want to connect that story to. So don't leave it up to solutions that are like uniform for all when you have a very personalized and unique story about your product to tell. And most importantly, I think on many other channels, while you do get some data, that data is somewhat limited, right? So direct to consumer channels are also additional opportunity to capture that zero and first party data directly, and that data is gold in this particular case, especially when the solutions have ability, for example, to do skin and face analysis. Not only do you get to ask consumer questions of what's important to them, but you get to understand kind of like the skin characteristics, the features, more detailed profile of your consumer demographic that many consumers wouldn't be even able to describe in their own words. And no retailer will give you that data. So while you will get the data about kind of like top line keywords or perhaps presence of ingredients or what sells or what doesn't kind of on a macro level from different retailers, if they choose to share that with you, um, you won't get that data about your exact consumer to that level of granularity. And that is where it's gold. In our past experience, we have customers that actually leveraged this type of data to make changes in their formulation or add additional product lines because they learned something that they had no idea about their consumer demographic. And oftentimes they learn something that the demographic is very different, for example, in different regions or in different territories. So that data, and I know anyone who is in data will agree with me, data is always gold. This is gold that is extremely rare. So don't pass up on this opportunity. And then, of course, this is an opportunity to have more direct dialogue, right? Especially with the new AI technology, and you're seeing that the journey gets redefined. So you have conversational interfaces, you have visual inspiration, you have opportunity to give more intelligent recommendation based on some additional unique information and adjust that dynamically as they're shopping. That is something that you could control much more on your own channel, and that allows you to be differentiated in the eyes of consumers, so they will be searching for your brand, or at least will be inspired by your brand, if that kind of time comes. So I can't say it enough, right? To me, I always come back, no matter what the experience you do, it also the fact that that proprietary data allows you for those smarter decisions, for this um, innovation. And those decisions could be at various caliber. I know I mentioned formulation decisions. It might be product line expansion. If you're a retailer, again, we see some retailers are popping up also on Amazon as additional marketplace channel. That could be a decision on assortment strategy. And also, that could influence how you might change the narrative. We have seen some brands where they actually didn't need to change necessarily their formulation or their products, but they needed to change how they talk about those products so that they get proper recognition. Because sometimes we're just too close to it, and what we think is important is not what consumer thinks is important, or perhaps just the language is starting to change, and just simply change in how you talk about it might be very much significant in the end. So with that, again, people ask, and I can't say it enough, right? But again, there is a very strong connection between what you do on every single channel, right? Including your own channel or the retailer, or how you present your product on a retailer channel or on Amazon. It really is a very tightly connected ecosystem, especially with the modern day consumer that literally researches everywhere, right? And makes that opinion. So everything that you do everywhere has that effect, right, on being able to tell that personalized beauty journey. And one point I will make, perhaps Hillary mentioned the copycats, right? That is also your defense strategy against those copycats, right? Like that, creating and being able to maintain your image and build the trust, and perhaps defend a higher price point as well. So again, I would say, like, people are asking what do we do, and perhaps it's repetitive, but just to again to reiterate why what you do on the channels that you control is important, because we all want to be differentiated, right? We don't want to drown in the sea of the others that might look like us. So you don't want to be limited only to retail tools. Granted, a platform like Amazon is pretty sophisticated. You have a lot of tools, and by all means, you should use every opportunity to create as personalized of experience as you can on that channel with the tools provided to you. But don't limit yourself to just those tools. Find your own unique voice on your own channel. Start there, and then, of course, I think you will just have an opportunity to amplify the journey with the presence on the right channels. But no matter what you do check the data. Look at the data, what it tells. I think there were some amazing examples in what Hillary had mentioned. Right? How fast it changes. It could have been that somebody is a market leader 2 months ago, and then they're not, right? It changes very, very quickly. It's extremely exciting space. So I would end it with, whatever your strategy is, data, 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 and data from every source, and as detailed as possible, so you could make decisions that are not just abstracted out in general for the market, but tie them to your product and your consumer as well, or the consumers that you want to get. So with that, I think there's tons of things that perhaps for the next time we could dive in. I know people are asking, like, hey, what exactly are the tools? What can we do, right? And all the different things. But perhaps we could I wasn't watching if we opened it out to questions for people to type. If not, we will reach out and we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions as well. But perhaps, Hillary, if you don't mind, I've been actually dying to ask you a question
Yeah.
as well. And I know talking about a lot about experience elsewhere, and I believe you mentioned that Amazon also could sometimes be risky for brand management, especially since anyone can take the buy box. So, in your opinion, I know I kind of preached mine, but in your opinion, how do you combat this as well?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. And like I kid you not, this is like the number one complaint that we see beauty brands have, right? Because they really like it's so important that your formulation, the expiration date of your product is not off. Like you don't want there to be resellers who can go to their local like discount sales outlet and resell your products on Amazon, right? That can be detrimental to any beauty brand. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you are using some kind of platform, whether that's a platform like ours, or if you're using your own kind of like um, day-to-day data management to see who is reselling your products on Amazon. And then make sure that you are registered with Amazon's brand registry, because that is the only way that you can actually go to Amazon and say, hey, this reseller is selling my product under my brand name. I do not want them to do this. And Amazon, that is a violation of Amazon's brand terms. They can revoke that seller's right to sell your product or your product on your listing, which is sounds like a contradiction in terms, but it is possible in a marketplace like this. The other thing that you can do is really refine your 1P versus 3P seller mix. You can sell as a 1P seller, meaning that you sell your products to Amazon essentially, and then they sell them for you. Or you can sell as a 3P seller, meaning you just use Amazon's fulfillment, but you still operate as your own entity. You can decide, hey, I want to do a mix, and maybe I'll bring some authorized sellers. So some reseller partners or retailers that I work with that I exclusively want to be selling my products as an authorized seller. And that can really help your reputation. It can spread your brand out a little bit more on Amazon, allow you to experiment with a few different tactics in terms of pricing, innovation, et cetera. And it really helps you get more control over your brand as a whole.
Thank you so much. This is extremely helpful. I really appreciate that, all the intricacies and of dealing with all the channels. So there is definitely a strategy to combat it. I know I talked a lot. I wasn't sure if Hillary, if you perhaps had a question of your own that you wanted to ask.
Yes, for sure. Well, because I kicked off my section by talking about what like a junkie I am for like the beauty space. So I'm really curious to know because I love the personalization and the AI tools that you offer. But what are like the most impactful types of that personalization that brands can create on their own channels?
That's an excellent question. And again, there's variety of different things. And interestingly enough, I just realized I could probably allow folks to scan QR code and take a look at a few things.
Mm,
But it really doesn't come down to like one technology versus the other. What we are seeing is being able to guide the consumer through comprehensive journey end to end is what's extremely important. And what I mean by that is, for example, if it's skincare, a lot of times consumers have an idea of what they want. So being able to give them that ability to answer that set of questions of what's important to them, how they think about that. But then they also want to be educated on their own skin. So a lot of times you will ask somebody, hey, what is your skin type? Or how you tell it, or where exactly you have the wrinkles. And they wouldn't necessarily know. They have this idea, but they won't be able to tell it to you directly. To be able to have solutions that allows for skin analysis, for example, that will actually educate consumer. And then from there, they want actually recommendation, especially in skincare. Just about everyone, when they buy skincare products, they layer them, right? So a lot of times when you buy a moisturizer and you have a cleanser and you have um, a serum, right? Or you have something else that you layer, and each individual product might be good for you, but they're not sure if they're okay to combine. And I use that example to death by now, but it's absolutely true. There are some ingredients that good on their own, but when combined, don't quite interact well. Or there might be too much of a good thing, right? Like if you layer 5 products with all retinol with extra strands in them, you're probably not doing yourself any good service. So being able to take consumers through that journey end to end and use whatever technology you need to kind of get to each point, be it recommendation engine or skin analysis or facilitating the quiz, and being able to present that in one journey so they don't go fragmented. And nowadays to also be able to layer a bit of a conversational, right? So they can ask some questions free form. That's all very much important. And then in makeup, for example, obviously the virtual try on, extremely important because, on a picture, I might have, 3 products that seem to be of the same shade on the surface, but I will try them on and they apply very differently. So you want to be able to have that solutions that realistically portrays your product, not just some abstract shade, right, on consumers' lips and be very precise and unique in that. But then we also think that the shoppers are, especially when it comes by for makeup, they no longer just say, a lot of times they will say, I want the lip stain of this color, all right? But oftentimes they actually say, I want that look, or I want to look like this person in this image. So it's giving them ability to kind of tell you what the intent is, match, and being able to allow them to shop by that inspiration or match that look and then visualize the whole look of how it will look together with some other product. That's super important. And I think that's what should be unique to every brand because that image is very unique.
Yeah. Oh, this is awesome. I really I wish that this technology had existed when I was like in high school because I feel like it would have saved me from a lot of like foundation mismatch and color mismatch issues I'm sure I had back in the day. So this is really awesome. One thing I was curious about just as you were chatting is like, we're capturing this, or you're capturing this data through these personalized experiences, but how does that data then feed into what brands are doing, and how does that like help them drive growth?
No, I mean, I would say that we're probably not seeing enough of action on that data. So obviously the
Mhm.
data is there and the data is very unique in a sense, hey, to the levels of wrinkles and skin type and skin concerns and face shapes, right? And also preferences of consumer. And then when presented with options, what do they swap products? Do they layer them? Do they have those kind of like additional routines? So at least in our with our service and with our solution, we share all the data back with retailers. We do see that data being actively used in marketing communications, right? So the marketing communications get adjusted. Communication with consumers get adjusted. But like I said, the ones that are truly wanting to make impact on business at a deeper level do engage other business units and other business teams across the organizations, diving into like, hey, do we have a gap in formulation? For example, maybe they see
Mm.
that their consumers are have a particular type of concern that none of their products is addressing. Or maybe there needs to be an adjustment in messaging, All right. For example, maybe they all know that there's a particular ingredient in their product, but they haven't advertised or promoted that enough or mentioned its properties. So it requires kind of like digging deeper, but the data is there, and I would say majority of the customers kind of know that, hey, it's a great opportunity to use it for marketing and marketing communication. I would urge everyone to dig deeper and truly use it for, if it's a retailer, for assortment selection, right? Maybe you are over supplying some products and under sourcing some others, right? Product lines, all of that. And we have some amazing examples of what was done with that. Granted, sometimes teams are so busy, right, with kind of like what's happening at the moment. But I wouldn't put it off because, like you said, the market changes in minutes. Consumers are so educated today, so that should be just as important as kind of like surface level things and reactions. That data should be analyzed on a daily basis, I would say, because there's a lot of interesting decisions, and that would allow brands to stay at the top, right? Because gaining that market share and gaining that, let's say, top five space is super challenging, right? But it's also extremely challenging once you're there to maintain it, to hold on to that.
Mm, so true.
So this was fantastic. I hope that our listeners think that as well. I would love to have more sessions and more joint collaboration with Jungle Scout and kind of maybe dive into other topics. And we will also be bringing guests for our other upcoming webinars. So do stay tuned. I think we're at the top of the hour. As always, we will be sharing the recording with everyone who registered. And I believe if you have other colleagues that perhaps didn't get to join or register, we'll keep the registration open for perhaps another week, just so that those people that register after the fact can get the download. So feel free to share the link to register. And then do reach out to us with questions or topics that perhaps we didn't get to touch on upon, and we'll follow up, be it with newsletters or additional webinars. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Hillary and Jungle Scout, and thank you, our audience, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And if anyone has questions for Jungle Scout specifically, I'm just gonna just pop my email. This is just my personal email in the chat here. You can also find me on, on LinkedIn if you have any questions. But feel free to just reach out. I'm happy to chat with you. And I know Irina's going to reach out after as well. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from anyone if they have questions or want to dive into some more of that keyword data that I talked about.
Thank you so much, and we will share your contact details as well. And I believe it's also on the registration page as well. So please do take a look. And until the next time, have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.